Good morning, and welcome to this online worship service, a time set aside each week to think about what really matters in our lives and in the life of the world around us. Our mission here at Sunnyhill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. If you are a newcomer or visitor to our congregation, please visit our website, sunnyhill.org, and click on the button that says New to Sunnyhill. We would love to let you know how you can connect with the congregation even during this time when our building is closed. Today, as we listen to our opening music, we encourage everyone who is watching or listening, not just newcomers, but everyone, to let us know you're here by saying good morning or hello in the comment thread on Facebook or YouTube. We'd love to hear from all of you and have a chance to say good morning to everyone who is with us today. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for saying hello.
Life goes on in endless song of others' lamentation. I hear the real, the moral hymn that hails a new creation. Through all tumult and the strife, I hear the music ring. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth is living. What though the darkness round me flows? Songs in the night giving. No storm achieved, my inmost calm rolls through the dawn. I'm free, since love reveals in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing when tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing? When friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To priests still like touch and file, our thoughts memory. When friends who shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Our opening words were written by Linda Barnes. Suspended between all that was and all that might be, we struggle to find this very moment, to live this very moment. Let us sit together for a moment and savor this moment. Let us relish this between time where past meets future. Let us harbor a faith that reminds us that right now, right here, is enough.
Please join us in saying the words for lighting our chalice. We light our chalice this morning, grateful for the love that we experience in this beloved community. May the flame light the way for all who seek such abundance.
It has been one full year since we have been physically together at Sunnyhill. One exhausting year of saying goodbye to loved ones, praying for those who are unwell, distancing from those we care about, job loss, depression, loneliness, worry after every single cough, and so many more issues that we're still uncovering. Albus Dumbledore, the wise headmaster from the Harry Potter series, said, "Happiness can be found, even in the darkest of times, if one only remembers to turn on the light." The author of this series has some beliefs that I don't personally agree with, but I believe that sometimes a story can be bigger than the person who created it. Harry Potter, in my family, is one of those stories. My children seem to cling to Harry Potter this year. They've been running around in capes and casting spells, recreating scenes, destroying Horcruxes, and defeating the dark arts. They stay up late in bed, rereading the novels. I think that for them, an enchanting story about a child and magic and fantasy has been the escape that they needed from the realities of the dark news and constant anxiety and fear that this last year has been full of. The age-old battle of good conquering evil and finding light in the darkness seem to hold more weight in a year like we've had. Yes, this year's been immensely difficult, and at times deeply painful. And it also gave us opportunities for deeper connection and learning. This year's given us a chance to sharpen our sewing skills while making masks for our families or for the masses. Mary Alice must have made several hundred. Pet adoptions skyrocketed, and the pets we currently love are getting all the attention that they have always wanted. Melissa's new pup Oakley is such a cutie, and Laurel and Cadence with their kittens, so sweet. My cat, however, is ready for us to get out of her house. We've perfected recipes and discovered new ones. Mary has really mastered the art of sourdough. Puzzles and board games made a comeback. Charlie even created his own. We found ways of exploring new technology together. Rebecca and Maddie's TikToks were adorable.
Baby, come give me something. Baby, come give me something.
Zoom connected us across distances, giving congregants that weren't local a chance to be together like never before. From Sandy out in Arizona to Joe in Florida, Sunnyhill was kind of everywhere. Books like How to Be an Anti-Racist and White Fragility topped the charts, and America had a conversation about race like never before. Rich, Rachel, Annabelle, Claire, Elliot, and others brought their voices to the streets, while Pat brought the conversation to the Zoom screen. These stories are each examples of glimmers of light that shone in a very dark year. It sure wasn't easy. At times, it was downright miserable. But there was always, always goodness to be found. As we reflect on the last year, let us hold space for the grief and grieving, but also cherish the goodness, the times of light and love that connected us and brought us closer together.
Each week at this time in the service, we share joys and sorrows submitted by members of the congregation. This week, as of the time of my recording this part of the service, we have not received any new joys or sorrows. But please do remember to submit your joys or sorrows online from our website or by contacting me or a member of our staff or pastoral care team by email or by phone. Let us bear in mind that there are joys and sorrows that are held too closely to be shared at this time. Please join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. In this moment, in these bodies, wherever we are, we sense the deep roots that hold and support us. Roots of family and friends and loved ones. Roots of geographical place and sacred space. Roots of identity and value and meaning. Roots that lend strength and stability to lives that can sometimes seem adrift and directionless. At the same time, we are aware of something that needs to be set free, something currently confined that longs to soar, to break away from care-laden shackles, something that wants to fly freely and resolutely, something that needs wings and open air to fulfill its purpose and its promise in our lives. Let us take a brief moment of silence to ponder those things that root us and strengthen us, and those things that need to be set free. Spirit of life, may we sense your abiding presence in the roots that hold us and in the wings that free us. May we live our lives in such a way as to provide strength and freedom for ourselves and others. And may we ever be grateful for each particle of life, each feather and follicle that connects all to all else. Amen.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
A couple of weeks ago, Jason Cook, a UU minister colleague from California, put out a call to see if any other UU ministers might be interested in recording 2-minute reflections on the topic of 1 year later, referring to the 1-year anniversary of the pandemic shutdown. 10 of us responded, and Jason edited our reflections together, which we're about to see. Interspersed with these reflections from UU ministers, I'm also including 2 songs written and recorded by UU ministers in the past couple of weeks. The first from Dan Schatz, who serves the Unitarian congregation of Westchester, Pennsylvania, and the second from Suzelle Lynch, who serves the Unitarian Universalist Church West in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Here now, 1 year later.
One year later. 1 year later, and I remember that week, that last week, 1 year ago, when we tried so hard to figure out what to do. And then that decision, no more worship in the sanctuary. How do we Zoom? What does this mean? We stood on a great empty plain stretching far out in front of us, covered by thick fog. I'd like to say that fog is lifted. The plain has been explored, that we have made a perfect home here, but still we struggle to adapt to this new way of being. But let's just take a moment to acknowledge, even tentatively to celebrate, because it is, after all, 1 year later. And the sun still rises and the stars still shine, and you and I wake up each morning and mourn the loss of some and celebrate across the miles the presence of others. 1 year later, we'll never forget that week, that realization dawning upon us all that change was before us, that the unknown stretched out beyond where we could see. We'll never forget that. But let's take a moment to hold the knowledge that it is indeed 1 year later. 1 year later, and we are here, not on the other side of the unknown, but somewhere in a place called resilience, called discovery, called life.
One year later. Wow. Feels like an eternity. 1 year later, I've discovered how much I love people. My friends, my family, this congregation, how much capacity I have to love the whole of humanity and to recognize all the ways in which we are deeply connected and all the ways in which we need one another. I've discovered how deeply I can love myself. I've rediscovered love for nature and the beauty of our earth. 1 year later, I am grateful for all the ways people have been reaching out inside our community and beyond our walls to the wider community in times of extraordinary loss and suffering and injustice and violence. We're reaching out. We're allowing ourselves to be cracked open, our hearts to be broken into pieces only so we can reassemble them in new ways. I've been amazed at how adaptive we've been, how willing we've been to try new things, how gracious we are learning to be with one another when new things don't go well. 1 year later, I'm still navigating, balancing a life when every single family member is at home all the time, with 2 kids in online school and 2 working parents, managing the gifts and challenges of virtual ministry and virtual worship, and being bolstered by all that is possible in this space, by the way in which we have seen growth and deeper connection that we haven't experienced before. 1 year later, I am grateful for this faith, for the way that it has moved alongside all of us and supported us with resources, with tools, and with the connection to one another, reminding us that we are greater than our individual congregations and the sum of our parts. I am grateful for all of the beautiful worship services we've been able to create and we've been able to experience that have been created by others. We are an imaginative, innovative, talented crew of people in this faith tradition, and I can't wait to see what comes next. And 1 year later, I have loved wearing the same pair of comfy yoga pants and slippers almost every day, even on Sundays.
A snapshot of ministry over the past year. 1 year later, for our world and our masks feel like a part of our bodies, like an arm or a foot, something we cannot imagine leaving the house without. If you were like me a year ago, you were constantly halfway to the grocery store or gas station before having to turn around, remembering you'd forgotten your mask. And now they're always either in our hands or pockets, always within arm's reach, in every direction. These masks serve as physical reminders for us, a way to say, I may not know you, but I care about you. I need you to survive. 1 year later for our community, and we stand on the precipice of extraordinary change. A year ago, we at Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist Church were about to kick off our capital campaign to build a church of our dreams on the property we had just purchased. We had to postpone the campaign for 8 months, a difficult decision, but one that placed the needs of our community at the forefront. And now we may be a little behind our timeline, but we excitedly look towards that day next year when we can all be together again, this time inside our new building. 1 year later for me, and creation has become linked to isolation. I have created an entirely new human being, welcomed them into this world away from you. Those who have loved my children like their own, have rocked them to sleep on Sunday mornings, have ensured their souls were nurtured each week by a community of dear ones. My spirit aches to co-create music, services, and a life of fullness with you all in the same room. My spirit aches to link creation and connection again. 1 year later, and there have been innumerable highs and lows, challenges and victories, losses and gains. But here we are, shots in many of our arms, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel 1 year later.
One year later, I am weighed down by grief, by previously unimaginable loss of life, by gross injustice and unprecedented suffering. 1 year later, I am lifted up by the thousands of acts of kindness I have witnessed and millions more that I will never know about. 1 year later, I am shocked by the immensity of the human capacity for suffering. And I am heartened by the enormity of human compassion. 1 year later, I am more aware of just how damaging isolation can be, and just how deep the longing for connection runs. 1 year later, I am reminded of the story about how to find out whether what you need in a plank is a nail or a screw. Drive the nail in, the story goes. If it splits the plank, you know you need the screw. 1 year later, the plank is split and splintered as we put down the hammer and reach for the screwdriver, hoping and praying that it is not too late to begin again, hoping and praying that what's left is enough, hoping and praying that we will find a way to bind up the brokenhearted, to release the prisoners, to bring good news to the oppressed. 1 year later, bone-weary and tempest-tossed, shaken and stirred, distraught and despairing, I am somehow more than ever convinced of the life-giving power of community. For it is through the sweet, sustaining power of we that we discover again and again how blessings arise from the ashes, and how strength is forged in flames. 1 year later, I say to you, to all, face what is real, grieve what is lost, and turn toward hope whenever and however you can. Peace.
In the toughest time you ever knew, the only thing that you could do was carry the flame. Sickness spreading through the land, you held your spirit in your hands and carried the flame. When storms and sorrows gathered round, you raised your head and you stayed your ground. You carried the flame. Through endless days of the hardest living, you kept on loving, kept on giving. You kept on and carried the flame. Carry the flame, raise it high, send its beacon through the sky. Keep it strong and shining through the pain. Let it rise and let it grow. Let it light the world, you know. Let it glow. Carry the flame. And when the day is done at last, we take on the spark you passed and carry the flame. From hand to hand we send it on, the kindling hope of a rising dawn. In a song we carry the flame. Carry the flame, raise it high, send its beacon through the sky. Keep it strong and shining through the pain. Let it rise and let it grow. Let it light the world, you know. Let it glow. Carry the flame. We are nurses, doctors, teachers. We are children, parents, preachers, and we all carry the flame. We are scientists and cargo packers, farmers, singers, grocery stackers, young and old. We carry the flame. Carry the flame, raise it high, send its beacon through the sky. Keep it strong and shining through the pain. Let it rise and let it grow. Let it light the world, you know. Let it glow. Carry the flame. Let it glow. Carry the flame.
One year later, and so much has changed. In this 1 year, many of us re-evaluated our lives and the world around us. Many of us also reevaluated our relationships. We found new ways to connect with each other while keeping each other safe. We managed to come together as communities, supporting each other through these challenging times. We reset priorities, we were inventive, and suddenly we were able to include not only those who are near, but also those far away, yet close to our hearts. But there was also grief. Grief for those we lost to COVID. There was isolation and loneliness. Longing to hug loved ones, or even just longing for any human touch at all. 1 year later, not all relationships survived the sudden constant closeness if we lived together, or the sudden distance if we didn't. What we're left with, what has become crystal clear, is the fact that we need one another, and we need to protect one another. We are truly interconnected in our joy and our suffering, not just during a pandemic, but always, because we are all that we have.
One year later. There's so much to say. I've learned that sometimes the most hopeful thing to do is to show up for other people, even when your heart is breaking or you're not sure what your next step is. I've learned that the process and the journey of faith takes all of the human experience. And that includes grief too. I've learned that grief, there's never too much of it. It shows us the depth of our love, even if the world wants us to move on. I've learned that even with incredible, inhumane realities among us, when things look bleak, human beings continue to show up for each other, to offer grace and love and mercy. I've learned how important compassion to ourselves and each other is. The compassion is not optional. It's what we all need to survive. I've learned that it's amazing all the things we can adapt to, how much we've changed and learned and grown together. I've learned how little I need to live. And I've learned just how much my life and my life's work exists only because of the precious work of community. My congregation has shown me what community can really look like, how to keep connected in times like these. And they have humbled me in more ways than I will ever have words for. Community and compassion. These are what keep us human, loving, and alive.
1 year later, I don't think many of us could have imagined living life this way for an entire year. Over the past year, we have reimagined almost every aspect of our lives, and particularly, we've reimagined together what it means to be in community, what it means to be in religious community with one another. It is something to celebrate that we are here and we are gathered, that we have adapted in ways we might never have dreamed possible. And it is something to mourn that we are not all here and we are not all gathered. Some congregations have lost many members in the last 12 months to the pandemic or to other causes. Some congregations have lost few, but all of us have been touched by loss. Family, friends, loved ones who are no longer with us the way we wish they could be. I am hopeful for a return to in-person gatherings, and I am hopeful that we remember how precious sharing space can be, how important a handshake, a hug, and singing together are. 1 year later, we know better the value of community because we've not let it go. We've made it as central to our lives as ever before.
1 year later. I love Maury Kettle more than I ever thought I could, for this has been a year when we need whatever warmth we can find. Need the reminder that we can find fellowship and help fill each other's cups in new and different ways. 1 year later, I have learned to go ahead and eat the chocolates I've saved in the kitchen cupboard, to go ahead and say the loving words on my heart and my mind, to watch whatever sings my heart quietly to rest, to not hoard joy but bring it out as I find it. 1 year later, I am more grateful than ever before for the sweet tang of winter oranges, shared now with my sweet 13-month-old as he sits next to me in his tall chair. Reminder that there is still so much beauty in the world, that somewhere still there are orange trees, green and fruitful. 1 year later, I rest in the comfort of my grandmother's chair. Let grief move through me without rushing away from it into busyness or distraction. Let the sadness and the worry travel through my life as I move through stillness and sorrow. 1 year later, I am dancing in the living room to songs my friends and dear ones have sung, holding on to love and joy and the practice of hope on days both dreary and bright with promise.
The future's still cloudy. We've been waiting so long. It's hard to be separated. Yeah, it just feels so wrong. Are we a community when we're not face to face? How do we hold on to our faith? Is the church just a place? How do we embrace each other when we're so far apart? How do we embrace the future when we can't see that far? If we hold on, will love show us the way? We know that we'll be together again someday. It hasn't been easy staying so far apart, seeing you only on Zoom screens. Yeah, it's breaking my heart, but my soul takes such solace in the stories you share, the ways you hold on to each other, and the ways that you care. How do we embrace each other when we're so far apart? How do we embrace the future when we can't see that far? If we hold on, love will show us the way, and we know that we'll be together again someday. I can't wait to see you Someday we'll embrace each other, no longer apart. So let us embrace that future, mind, soul, and heart. If we will hold on, love will show us the way. We know that we'll be together again someday. Someday we will be together, we'll be face to face, and we will embrace each other and our sacred space. I know we can hold on, love will show us the way, 'cause we know that we'll be together again someday. 'Cause we know that we'll be together again someday.
One year later, what I know more than anything is the need for religious community, the purpose and power of religious community, and the strength of religious community. 1 year later, I've seen how we need this religious community and this faith more than I ever understood before. We've needed each other as we mourned the loss of life and the loss of connections, as we endured hardships, financial and personal. We've needed each other in practical ways, from our mask makers who supplied each other to those helping each other find vaccine appointments now. And we've needed this faith to give us strength, courage, and keep us connected to the force of love. 1 year later, I've seen the purpose and power of religious community and this faith. I've talked for decades about how churches can work together more, and this year we've worshiped with others, learned with others, done justice with others like never before. We've become more connected to those around us and to Unitarian Universalism. And within our own community, we've pulled together to make things possible that we would have never dreamed we'd be doing a year ago, and to envision from this time forward what might be possible in the future. 1 year later, I know the strength of religious community. I know that our building doesn't define us, beautiful though it may be, and that the church can withstand enormous hardship, that the religious community will find strength and resilience from new places, surprising places. I know we will find ways, we will always find ways to lift our voices together, to worship together, to do justice together, and to care for one another. Beloveds, 1 year later, this I know, we together will bend the arc of justice towards love. May it be so.
One year later, we may not be seeing each other in person, but we are connected to people across the country. We have worship and classes attended by people from multiple states and congregations beyond our own. We feel more connected to our Pittsburgh cluster, even as we lament the loss of spending time in our building and sharing our potluck food with one another. 1 year later, we are grateful and glad that the First UU Church of Indiana, Pennsylvania is part of the shared pulpit for worship and partnering to share classes with fellowships in Florence, Oregon, and Ligonier, Pennsylvania. It may not be perfect. We certainly don't want to be an online-only church forever. But 1 year later, we can see changes we've made, a spark of hope kindled into flame, a possibility for a thriving future. We notice increased accessibility and love beyond boundaries. We see inspiration, care, and action in line with our values. 1 year later,
Here we are.
One year later, I take nothing for granted. Not you, not me, not connection, not our determination to keep connected. Not time, whether there's too much of it or not enough. Not music, not singing, not the breath that makes the singing. Not the need to be together, nor the need for time alone. Not the beauty at hand in the smallest things just waiting for us to notice. Not the noticing, the power to let in those things we usually move too fast to find. Not the learning that keeps trying to find me. If only I can be still. In my body, my mind, or my spirit. 1 year later, I take nothing for granted. Not you, not me, not connection, not singing, not breath, not time, not beauty, not learning, not noticing, not love. Not now, and not ever again.
Once again, I'm grateful to Jason Cook for organizing this project and to all of my colleagues who participated. My UU minister colleagues serve as one of my primary sources of support and inspiration, especially during this past year of unprecedented challenges and innumerable heartaches and frustrations. 1 year later, I am more grateful than ever to be engaged in ministry here at Sunnyhill. I hope and pray that we will continue to love one another and come back stronger than ever. Amen.
Though days be dark with storms and burdens weigh my heart, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on when sorrow heals my soul and burdens make me strong. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, my brother in my song. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the journey is long, the destination is near. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So brothers, take my hand.
Today's offering will benefit SHIM, the South Hills Interfaith Movement. SHIM has been providing food, clothing, and services to people in need in Pittsburgh's southern suburban neighborhoods for more than 50 years. The demand for SHIM services has never been higher, and continued support from local congregations and individuals is both needed and very much appreciated. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so one of two ways. You can go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving, and then follow the instructions. Once you get to the drop-down menu, just choose either Designated Collections if you're giving to SHIM, or 2021 Pledge Collections if you're making a payment on your pledge. Or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. Just dial that number using your smartphone and follow the instructions. You can also mail a check if you prefer, and you can find our mailing address on our website at sunnyhill.org. Thank you for your generosity.
Please join us in saying the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our opening words were written by Jason Cook. When there is so much, more than you can take in, more than you can see or feel or hear or hold, remember to love. When there is too much, the voice is too strident, or too loud or discordant, when you don't know where to turn, remember to love. When there is not enough touch, not enough of what we need or want or dream of, remember to love. For our greatest cataclysms, our deepest worries, our overwhelming fears are only managed by remembering to love and to be loved in return. Go in peace.